Greetings and salutations, everyone. Welcome to our coverage of the UFC 216 weigh-ins. We're here at the Mirage in Las Vegas, Nevada. I'm Ariel Helwani, and we are about to get things kicked off here this morning. It is 9 a.m. Pacific time, 9:03 to be exact. And over there you see Ray Borg, the man who will be meeting Demetrius Johnson tomorrow night for the UFC flyweight title. It was a month ago that Ray Borg had to pull out of his title fight against Demetrius Johnson due to a viral infection, and perhaps he is making a statement here this morning, showing up first. We'll see if he'll be actually the first man on the scale. He is standing next to his teammate Lando Venata, who is also competing on the card. Ray Borg has received a boatload of criticism. Over there you see the officials working on the scale. They put up a sign with the hashtag Vegas Strong. Of course, we're here in Las Vegas where just a few days ago there was a horrific shooting across the street from the Mandalay Bay. Still on everyone's mind. The community here is still grieving, still processing it all. As of right now, 58 confirmed dead, 500 injured. Had the opportunity to speak to Dr. Jeffrey Davidson of the UFC, the UFC's chief medical physician. He was on the front lines, so to speak, working in the ER, worked on a lot of patients, and it's impossible to ignore what happened just a few days ago as we get set for UFC 216. And how about this? Here he comes, Ray Borg, flanked by his coach Brandon Gibson, making a statement. This is very symbolic here as he steps on the scale. Very first fighter to do so this morning. $124 for Ray Borg, and he looks at the media. That is a massive weight off this young man's shoulder. A expecting father. Just found out a couple of weeks ago that he'll be a father for the first time with his lovely wife. He gets that monkey off his back now. He is official for tomorrow night's flyweight title fight. History will be made either way. Either Demetrius Johnson is the most victorious champion in UFC history, or he loses his first UFC flyweight fight. We will see tomorrow night. So Ray Borg is in the books. Here comes his teammate, Lando Venata. $155 3/4 for groovy Lando Venata. Always a pleasure to watch him compete. He meets Bobby Green on the card tomorrow night. A fun fight in the 155-pound division. That's groovy Lando Venata, who is also official. So two Jackson Wink teammates kicking things off for us this morning as we get things rolling for the official weigh-ins. Make that three Jackson Wink teammates, because it seems as though the Fire Kid himself, Tom Duquesnoy of France, one of the up-and-coming stars in the UFC, he'll be making it 3 for 3, it seems, for the Jackson Wink crew. Steps onto the scale. Here's Tom Duquesnoy. And he hits his mark. That's 135.5 for the Frenchman, Tom Duquesnoy. He meets Cody Stamen tomorrow night. An important fight in the bantamweight division, a battle of two 15-1 fighters. The Fire Kid, fighting out of Paris, France, of course, trains out of Albuquerque, New Mexico with the Jackson Wink team, was victorious in his UFC debut back in April. Fantastic win over Patrick Williams, looking to go now 2-0 inside the octagon. And now you see the Brazilian Poliana Botelho Stepping onto the scale, she is 5-1. As a professional, she is making her UFC debut. She was supposed to debut back at UFC 206 against Valerie Letourneau. She pulled out of that fight due to an injury, and here she is stepping onto the scale for the first time as a UFC fighter. That's Poliana Botelho. And she hits her mark, 115 for Poliana. Look at that smile, very happy as she flexes for the crowd. She is official before her UFC debut. Moving along now, we welcome in another Brazilian. Here's the veteran, Thales Leites. Longtime veteran of the UFC. He's been around this game for quite some time. One of the best walkout songs in MMA. He comes out to Three Little Birds by the great Bob Marley. He meets Brad Tavares on the prelims tomorrow night. And he steps onto the scale as a 27-7 mixed martial arts veteran. Born in Rio, fighting out of Rio. Appears to be in great spirits. He's coming off a win over Sam Alvey. And he hits his mark. There you go, 185.5 for Thales Leites. Coming off a win over Sam Alvey back in April, a unanimous decision win. Looking to win his third fight in his last 4 overall. And there you see him drinking a big gulp of water, a Body Armor bottle of water. It was announced yesterday that Body Armor would be the official sports drink of the UFC in 2018, but it looks like Thales Leites is getting a head start on all of that. We move along now and say hello to Matt Danger Schnell. 10-4 as a professional. Looking to snap a 2-fight losing streak. Looking to pick up his first UFC victory. He hits his mark. That's 126 for Matt Danger Schnell. He meets Marco Antonio Beltran tomorrow night. He's lost 2 in a row. 1 to Rob Font, 1 to Hector Sandoval, 2 TKO losses. Looking to pick up his first win tomorrow night against Marco Antonio Beltran. That's Matt Danger Schnell fighting out of Shreveport, Louisiana. Now we say hello to Evan Dunham. Riding a 4-fight winning streak, but we have not seen him for a year. Suffered an injury around 6 months ago. Of course, he currently resides in Las Vegas. Spoke about the tragedy on Sunday and how it affected his community. I thought he spoke very well about that on Wednesday. And Evan Dunham hits his mark, 18-6 as a professional. Was supposed to fight back in February, had to pull out of the fight due to an injury. And of course, he meets Beneil Dariush tomorrow night.
Kalindra Faria.
As we said, Evan Dunham, winner of his last 4 in a row, looking to pick up his 5th straight victory tomorrow night. Now we say hello to the Brazilian Kalindra Faria. She is the now former Titan FC bantamweight champion. She is taking this fight on a little over a week's notice. Stepping onto the scale for the first time as a UFC fighter. She hits her mark, 125 for the UFC debutante. She's won her last 3 in a row. She has not fought since last September. Originally, we were supposed to see Paige Van Zandt versus Jessica Eye on this card. That fight got canceled after Paige Van Zandt suffered an injury. And so then they booked Kalindra Faria versus Andrea Lee. Andrea Lee was removed due to a USADA issue. And so now they booked Kalindra Faria versus Mara Romero Barella. We say hello now to the UFC flyweight champion Demetrius Johnson, and like the pro that he is, he hits his mark, 125 pounds for Mighty Mouse himself. Demetrius Johnson on the verge of making history if he wins tomorrow night against Ray Borg. He would be the most successful champion in UFC history. It would be 11 successful title defenses. He would break Anderson Silva's record of 10. He was hoping to do this last month in Edmonton. He did not get that opportunity. He gets that opportunity tomorrow night. As we saw moments ago, Ray Borg, official for the title fight as well. That's the co-main event for UFC 216. We get to see the headliners. For now, though, we say hello to Cody Stamen, who meets Tom Duquesnoy tomorrow night. 136 for the Spartan. He hits his mark. He's on some kind of roll, looking to win his second straight UFC fight. Defeated Terrion Ware at UFC 213 back in July. This is a fantastic fight featuring two young bantamweights, and there you see him flanked by the former UFC fighter, now Ryzen fighter, Darren Cruikshank. In attendance this morning is the UFC light heavyweight champion, Daniel Cormier. He'll be working the broadcast tomorrow night with John Anik. Say hello now to Mark Godbeer. Mr. Godbeer meets Walt Harris tomorrow on the UFC 216 card. He is stepping onto the scale for the first time since March of this past year. And he hits his mark, 244.5 for the Englishman, Mark Godbeer, fighting out of Bridgewater, England. They call him the Hand of Godbeer. And as I mentioned earlier, he'll be meeting Walt Harris tomorrow. And speaking of heavyweights, here comes the Black Beast, the inimitable Black Beast. What an inspiration he has been for his community in Houston, telling Bob Bennett of the Nevada Athletic Commission that he's tired this morning. He said that he was having trouble making weight, but something tells me he was pulling our leg. We're about to find out. He meets Fabricio Verdum, and he is rocking the socks on the scale. The classic sock on the scale move, even though he's stripped down to his skivvies. There you see Derrick Lewis looking to get back on track following his loss to Mark Hunt, and he hits his mark. No problems today for the Black Beast. Houston's own Derrick Lewis, 263.5, looking to be in great shape. No drama this time. He predicted there would be a little bit of drama en route to the scale, but his team told me yesterday that this has been one of the best camps of his career, despite everything going on back home in the great city of Houston, Texas, following Hurricane Harvey in late August. And now we say hello to Mara Romero Barella, who of course is taking this fight on super short notice, less than a week's notice. She is replacing Andrea Lee, who is replacing, I suppose, Jessica Eye or Paige Van Zandt. She is making her UFC debut as well tomorrow night against Kalindra Faria. Here's Mara Romero Barella, 11-4 as a professional, As I mentioned, making her UFC debut. Former Invicta fighter. She hits her mark. Kudos to her. 126 for Mauro Romero. Barella, and look at that smile. She is now official, and that fight is official. It will be taking place on the pay-per-view card. A women's flyweight fight. Of course, they'll be crowning their first women's flyweight champion in December. Those two fighters hoping to be a big part of that division in the future. Now we say hello to the king, Bobby Green. Haven't seen him since April. One of the more interesting characters in the UFC, a fan favorite, a longtime veteran of the sport. Seemingly fought for every organization under the sun. Of course, prior to the UFC, he was a member of Strikeforce. King Bobby Green now stepping onto the scale. He meets Lando Venata. There's a nice smile on his face. $155 for Bobby Green. He hits his mark as well. Looking to pick up his first UFC victory since July of 2014 when he defeated Josh Thompson at UFC on Fox 12. Since then, he has lost to Edson Barbosa, Dustin Poirier, Rashid Magomedov back in April. That was the most recent loss. So hoping to snap his 3-fight losing streak is King Bobby Green. Say hello now to Beneil Dariush, flanked by his coach Rafael Cordero over at King's MMA. Beneil Dariush meets Evan Dunham tomorrow on the pay-per-view card, and this is an important one for him. They call him Benny, and he's looking to rebound after his knockout loss to Edson Barbosa back in March. $156 for Beneil Dariush. He hits his mark, breathes a sigh of relief, looking up to the heavens. Thanks the men upstairs. Said he was on the strip on Sunday night during the shooting outside of Mandalay Bay, but thankfully no one he knows affected. Of course, all the fighters fighting with a heavy heart tomorrow, as we will be just 6 days removed from what transpired last Sunday night. Tony Ferguson is here. Said that he was pretty close to making weight. He is hoping to finally become the UFC interim lightweight champion. It has been quite some time since we've seen Tony Ferguson in action. He has been soaking it in all week here in Las Vegas, and it appears as though he has a date with destiny on Saturday night. $155 for the man they call El Cucuy. Asking him to pose now for the cameras. The new father in great spirits this morning here in Las Vegas. He now awaits the arrival of the Motown phenom. Next, here he comes, Walt Harris. Looking to make weight. His opponent, Mark Godbeer, successfully hit his mark earlier this morning. Here comes the big man, Walt Harris. They call him the big ticket. $251 for the big ticket. Walt Harris, he hits his mark. He has won his last 2 fights in a row. He's looking to make it 3 in a row against Mark Godbeer, training out of American Top Team. Originally from Homewood, Alabama, is big Walt Harris. Looks like Fabricio Verdum just woke up. Look at those eyes, right? Bom dia. Yes. These got those big shorts. Fabricio Verdum stepping on the scale. It appears as though he has dropped a few pounds. And he hits his mark, 247 for Fabricio Verdum. What a life it is as a heavyweight in mixed martial arts. Not a worry in the world. He's able to hit his mark, and that means his fight against Derrick Lewis is now official. Good to go for the former UFC heavyweight champion. You see there he is flanked by his coach, Rafael Cordero. We'll hold that thought and say hello now to Brad Tavares. He meets Taos Leites tomorrow night. Brad Tavares, who is a proud resident of Las Vegas, Nevada. 15-4 as a professional, fighting out of Extreme Couture. He hits his mark, 185.5. That's major for Brad Tavares. 2-0 in his last 2 fights, looking to win his 3rd fight in a row. Coming off a win over Elias Theodorou. He's flanked by the president of the Professional Fighters League, Mr. Ray Sefo. Let's hold that thought. Here comes the former Bellator lightweight champion, Will Brooks. He meets Nik Lentz tomorrow night. We were just talking about Will Brooks. 18-3 as a professional. 156 for Will Brooks, looking to snap the first 2-fight losing streak of his career. Now we say hello to Magomed Bibulatov. He meets John Moraga tomorrow. 14-0 as a professional. They call him the Gladiator. Fighting out of Grozny in Russia. Was victorious in his UFC debut back in April. He is stepping on the scale. Needs the assistance of the towel. And he hits his mark. That's 126 for Magomed Bibulatov. Putting his clothes back on, he will step on the scale. The former World Series of Fighting flyweight champion. As we said, 14-0 as a professional. Here comes John Moraga, hoping to keep his walkout music. He tweeted yesterday that the UFC was asking him to replace it, but he steps on the scale now. Bit of a tired look on his face for Chicano. John Moraga, he hits his mark. That's 126 for John Moraga. He's here with Efrain Escudero. Moraga looking to win his 2nd fight in a row. He meets Magomed Bibulatov, and he is a heavy underdog, a plus 400 for the former UFC flyweight contender. So that fight is now official. Say hello now to Marco Antonio Beltran, who is here with Efrain Escudero. You see him right there. They call him El Psycho, looking to snap a 3-fight, or I should say a 2-fight losing streak. And Marco Antonio Beltran stepping on the scale with the help of a towel. And he hits his mark. El Psycho hits his mark. 126 for Marco Antonio Beltran. And so that means his fight against Matt Danger Schnell is official as well. We say hello now to Pearl Gonzalez, who's looking to pick up her first UFC victory. She meets Poliana Botelho. Here comes Pearl Gonzalez. She lost her UFC debut back in April against Cynthia Calvillo, and it appears as though she needs the help of the UFC branded hoop. is stepping on the scale right now. Here comes Pearl Gonzalez. Can't even see her face. We think that's Pearl Gonzalez. And she hits her mark. That's 116 for Pearl Gonzalez. She makes weight at 10:37 a.m. Pacific time. Again, looking to pick up her first UFC victory. She's going to put her clothes on. She walks out in the UFC branded hoop. And now we see Pearl Gonzalez return for her pose in front of the cameras. She smiles for the photo and video cameras here. She appears to be walking a little gingerly, but she has made her weight and she is good to go. And now we have officially reached 11 a.m. Pacific time, and that means Kevin Lee has seconds to step on the scale. And now here he is, the Motown phenom himself. Kevin Lee has arrived. It is 11 a.m. Pacific time. Takes a deep breath, wipes his face with his towel. He is about to step on the scale. This is one of the most important moments of his young career. Kevin Lee has stepped on the scale. It is 11 a.m. Pacific time. Bob Bennett looking at the scale. The moment of truth for Kevin Lee has arrived. He is nodding his head. He appears to be confident. Bob Bennett looking at the scale once again, asking for some space. A gigantic moment here for the Motown phenom. It is 11:01 a.m. Pacific. He appears to be happy. Bob Bennett making sure he has to weigh 155. Cannot be over 155.
156.
156 for Kevin Lee. 156 for Kevin Lee. Kevin Lee appears to be stunned. He thought he was going to make the weight. Bob Bennett says he is 156. Kevin Lee walks off with his head down. And now we await official word from Bob Bennett of the Nevada Athletic Commission. But here he is back. The return of Kevin Lee. Kevin Lee is back. He says, let's go. He shakes his head. He is confident as can be. He is stepping on to the scale right now. He is about to step on the scale. He is getting ready. Bob Bennett wishes him good luck. Standing with his head held high, appears to be confident. Kevin Lee is flexing. He has to hit 155. This is his chance. No time to spare. No more chances. Kevin Lee has to hit 155. 154 and a half for Kevin Lee as he raises the number one. He has made the weight, and that means our interim lightweight title fight is official. Kevin Lee will be fighting for the interim lightweight title tomorrow night. He has made the weight.
Nevada Administrative Code 467. He's got an hour to lose up to 2 pounds. And he came in, he was a pound over, and the doctor cleared him. So everything's
good to go
by the numbers.
Could you explain just one more time why he was allowed to have that extra hour?
Yeah, it's not every fight, whether it's boxing or MMA, it's in our regs that you have an hour to lose up to 2 pounds. Our regs supersede anybody else's. Now, if the UFC has their policy and they opted to utilize ours, which I recommended over 6 months ago from a business perspective, and in providing we're looking out for the health and safety of the fighter, I have to have the approval from my doctor that, yes, this fighter can, in fact, afford to lose 1 more pound. 2 doctors cleared him to lose 1 more pound, and he made his weight. And that's in accordance with our regs.
And that goes for any fighter on the card. It could be the first fight.
It goes for the undercard, the main event. It goes for every boxing event that we have.
So if someone showed up at, say, 9:01, missed weight, they would have essentially until 12. They would have an extra hour after the 2 hours, or an extra hour from the moment they step on the scale.
They would have an hour once my doctor evaluated them. The doctor finished evaluating
Kevin Lee
at 11:15. He had to be back here no later than 12:15, and that's what happened. So
it's only 2 pounds, right? It can't be like 10 pounds over.
No. And the doctor has to make sure, because there has been times where we didn't allow a fighter to lose those 2 pounds because he or she was too sucked out, too dry. So this is really nothing new for us.
Kevin actually stepped on the scale at 11:01, but he was here at 11. Does it have to be at 11 on the buzzer that he steps on the scale, or is there a leeway there?
According to my watch, it was 11.
Okay.
Yeah. And no, I mean, that's just according to our regulations, and most importantly, the doctor. If somebody misses the weight, they've got to see the doctor, and the doctor has to agree on it. And in this particular case, the doctor said, I'm not going to allow him to lose more than 1 pound.
Okay.
And then I asked another doctor, and they both agreed. So this is not an anomaly. This is not unusual. This is in accordance with our code.
And last thing, is your doctor saying that he's okay to fight now after making that extra pound?
Sure.
Cutting it?
I'm sure he'll go ahead and get rehydrated, immediately.
Thank you, Mr. Bennett. Okay, so there you go. You heard from Bob Bennett of the Nevada Athletic Commission, the executive director, explaining why Kevin Lee had an extra hour to make the weight. He has made the weight, and that means UFC 216 is now official. We will have plenty more reaction to this later on in the day. We have the UFC 217 press conference coming up in just a couple hours. We'll have the ceremonial weigh-ins later on today as well. One casualty, just to recap, the Nik Lentz versus Will Brooks fight has been canceled. Nik Lentz failed to make weight, so that fight is off. UFC 216 proceeds with 12 fights. Most importantly, the 2 title fights are intact. They are going down as of right now. Kevin Lee makes it with just a minute or so to spare. What a turn of events. Theater unlike anything we've ever seen in this sport. Never ceases to amaze. Appreciate you watching. Appreciate you joining us. For Casey, Esther, Sean, I am Ariel. We'll be back later on today with more reaction, preview video, and much more to come from here in Las Vegas. But for now, we shall say goodbye again. Thanks so much for watching. We'll talk to you in a bit.